everybody. It's me, Johnny, and with me I've got DJD.
Howdy.
And Piccinini.
Me.
AKA Caitlin. And she sounds quiet because she's away from her mic. It's because she's eating.
I just
want to throw that out there right away.
I fixed it.
Because she's eating. And in the back, chilling in the sound booth, we've got our one and only Craig. What's up, Craig? How are you? So guys, another day, another missed episode by Farmer. Am I right?
Let's start off with this, okay? It's perfect. Maybe Farmer's grieving, okay? Maybe that's why he's not here, okay? Because Paramount, the streaming, like the television portion of it, just got shut down.
What?
So there won't be any more Halo coming from them anytime soon. Which, I mean, Halo, they had already said that they weren't going to do more Halo, but now we know why. It's because Paramount decided to close their television studio. So,
that's crazy.
That's so wild. But are they just keeping all of the rights to it, or are they going to try and sell it to somebody?
I've seen a bunch of different conflicting things. I don't know how much of it is worked out. Apparently all like owned properties are going to go to like a different arm of their parent company. But like, I mean, yeah.
So question for both of you. If someone gets Halo and they can make a new series, new timeline, new series, what studio would you be happy with getting Halo? This is coming from someone who hasn't watched. I have not watched a single episode of the show.
I could see Amazon Prime picking it up.
Honestly,
I don't know if that's the best for them, but I could see them doing it.
But would they? They already have like a sci-fi game TV show, you know?
So are we talking like platform basically? Like which like service?
Yeah, basically. I guess like who's going to pick it
like,
up?
I mean, like getting in a showrunner gets really complicated. Yeah.
Yeah. Not
I mean, obviously,
like,
the answer is Jonathan Nolan for like everything, right?
Oh man, yeah.
But
he's our man.
Like on one hand, I don't know. It's hard because like Amazon did so much right with Fallout, but like, you know, I'm also a Wheel of Time fan. Season 1 of Wheel of Time, pretty rough. You know, Season 2 of Wheel of Time was better.
I'm thinking about like The Expanse also. Like that was solid.
Yes, true. That's what I'm thinking of too.
That's true. Yeah. If they got if they specifically were like, oh yeah, we've got like the Expanse team, I would be about it. I would say
Netflix could use a really good sci-fi show on there. Mm-hmm. But I mean, then the question is, would they
got good
be
budget
willing
too.
To support it? Like, well, yeah, for the first like 2 or 3 seasons, but then they axe it, right? No matter where it is, if it's not like doing enough numbers for them.
Bridgerton. It's moving on to season 4.
This is true. But Netflix often does cancel their stuff. Mm-hmm. You know, that is also true.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's crazy to me whenever I go on Netflix, and I haven't been on Netflix in a while, but every time that I've gone on Netflix and seen the top 10, how much of that top 10 is like either clickbait or just kind of like trash. Like, that's what gets numbers, as opposed to like some of their, in my opinion, better shows. Like,
like what? I would be interested.
Shadow and Bone.
Shadow and Bone. I really liked Shadow and Bone.
Yeah. I did too. That was solid.
I really liked Avatar. Was a big fan of how they did Avatar: The Last Airbender. But yeah, I guess as far as ones that have been successful, Amazon Prime probably has the best successful sci-fi and like good adaptation. But they also have Rings of Power, which I haven't rewatched season 1, but season 2 is coming out, and I'm ready to get hurt again.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, I really wish Twitch still had group watch. Because I would totally rewatch season 1 on Twitch, you know? Like, that would be really interesting.
Season 1, I've heard it's not as bad the second time.
Yeah.
And
because that's what I'm curious about. Yeah.
It's really easy to like not be happy about that. Be like, who freaking cares? But I will say this, you know, I'm a huge Avatar: The Last Airbender fan. I was really critical and really didn't love The Legend of Korra when it came out, especially season 2 and such. And to be honest, it was kind of the same thing. The second time I watched it, I was like, you know what? It's not as bad as I remember. Like, I was a lot more forgiving toward it, right? Kind of letting it be what it is versus what I wanted it to be.
Right.
And so when people say that, like, oh, the second time's not as bad, it makes me feel a bit more open to it. Like, oh, I should at least consider it, kind of a deal.
Yeah, you got to let those initial thoughts and feelings happen and then fade. And then you're like, okay, honestly, though, not bad.
But it's also hard because, like, as a parent with twins under 2, it's really hard for me to have time for anything, let alone like, oh, yeah, you need to watch this show again.
Twice. Yeah.
Right. Like, oh, great. Cool. Because there's a ton of stuff that I haven't even watched yet, let alone watching it again. I have this reading list that I just keep adding books to. And the problem is that the last 14 books is the Wheel of Time series because I've read it already. And so I keep putting new books in front of it because it's like I should read the new book before I read the series I've read already. And actually, I think it's even longer now because I think I've put like the whole Dresden Files in front of the Wheel of Time too. I want to reread the Dresden Files. We talk about it so much. I want to read it again.
Though. Such a good reread.
But it's just, man, it's brutal. It's hard to get through it. And then I'm like, oh, I'm going to read the next Expanse book. I'm going to read the next Witcher book. I'm going to read these. But I feel that way with show too. I have not watched The Acolyte yet. I want to. It hasn't happened yet. Hold on. Let me pull up this list. I have movies I have bought and paid for from years ago now that I have not watched yet. Here we go. I have Last Looks, which is a Charlie Hunnam movie, and I will watch any movie with Charlie Hunnam in it. Spider-Verse 2, still haven't watched it. I'm actually kind of happy about that because I'm waiting for that next one. I got a movie called Pencils and Pixels, Matrix 4, Justice League and Ruby. I need to watch the last 40 minutes of Oppenheimer, I don't know. Hunger Games 5 and Dune 2. I have bought and paid for these things, and
I'm surprised you're able to wait on Dune 2. Yeah, Dune 2 was, I mean, like, I love the first part of Dune. Great setup. The movie literally stops right as it gets good. And you're like, so then the moment Dune Part 2 dropped, I was just like, I was on it. I had to see it.
But actually, I can totally explain why I haven't watched Dune Part 2. How many hours is that movie?
Oh, gosh, like 2.5, 3?
2.5. Yeah, 2.5 to 3.
Pretty hard. It's pretty hard for me to find 3 hours with my twins, you know? Well,
here's the thing. Next time you take Chiho to the hospital.
Yeah, just watch it. Well, and then you get into an even more difficult thing of like Chiho, Bethany, and I all want to watch it together. Right? Yeah. So like basically there's not a time to watch it. Just like, you know, I'm also going through Dragon Prince, one of the seasons of Dragon Prince. But yeah, basically if we want to do anything, realistically we just have to not do it together. But we all haven't accepted it yet. Right? We're all still trying to do stuff together, and it's just not working. So one thing for you to consider also is you're going to be on an insanely long plane ride this year. That's a good time to knock out some stuff. That's a good point. I can download them and watch them, or I could play games on my Steam Deck, which is what I've been doing most of my spare time. I've been pounding away at Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I love it. I put 24 hours into the game so far. It's so good. I am sad because I know I'm on this, like, the back half of the game, right? You know the feeling when you're like...
Yeah, but then Rebirth, you know? Like, I mean... Right. Or you could do... Recore or whatever, you know, the
Crisis Core. The next one I'm going to do that I'm also excited for is I'm going to play the first Horizon Zero Dawn game.
Yes, that's a good one too.
First Horizon game.
I'm playing through that right now, and it's really good.
Super pumped to get into it.
Really good. Yeah, I think it'll be up your alley, man.
Yeah. So the guys in AnavCast have been playing Java Minecraft, and I've heard, and from the research I've done, apparently. The Steam Deck, this is going to sound weird. The Steam Deck runs Bedrock like trash, apparently, but it runs Java great. I've never played Java Minecraft because, you know, I've never been on PC. I've only ever played like, you know, the Xbox version of Minecraft and then Bedrock. So like on one hand, super excited about it. But on the other, it's like, you know, I'm trying to get through these single player games. I'm trying to watch these movies. Maybe I shouldn't get into like a shared world in Minecraft, you know?
I get that. There was a game that was a survivor-based game. Oh, man. Survival-based game, not a survivor-based game. But I don't remember the name of it. But like I purposefully, even though it looked really good to me, I was like, nah, I don't have time for this. I can't get into this.
Well, and then I have this long list of single player games I want to play and get through. But then I haven't bought it, but I really want to get Ghost of Tsushima and play it. I think it would be a lot of fun. And
I really enjoyed it. Though it got to the point where you finish like the first act, and I thought that no, I did not. Okay. Once I finished the first act, I thought that was the end of the game, and then the entire like continent of Japan opens up or whatever, and you keep playing. Yeah. And I'm like, oh,
wait,
I wasn't prepared.
You get off Tsushima? Are you serious? I don't know anything about this game. What?
No, initially you're like just in northern Japan or something, or maybe it's southern Japan. I don't know. One of the two directions. Are you not in Tsushima
during the game? Tsushima is an island. What?
I don't know. Yeah, the whole continent opens up.
I like the country. It's just a country.
Oh, country.
Well, no, okay. I think she might be talking about like the land that you're on. In terms of continent, she might be using it as like, like
so maybe
whatever you're on.
Sure.
So maybe like the whole island of just Tsushima opens up and like you're just in a really, I don't know how big my scale and my reference is not on point here, but I finished the first part and it opened up this giant map to keep playing. And I was like, oh, I thought that was the end of the game. I was not prepared to commit this much time and energy into this game right now. And I haven't finished it. But I enjoyed what I played of it.
Like that first part is actually pretty sizable. Like I would consider that like a fairly decent map, in terms of that. But
I thought it was a full game.
That was also exactly what happened to me with Death Stranding, where like I got like I'm probably like 40 hours deep at this point, maybe 60 hours, not counting my first playthrough. The walking simulator game. Yes. Yeah. But like I know that I'm like maybe halfway. Maybe, if that. And I'm like, man, I can't keep on like throwing time at this right now. I just don't have the time. I don't have the time to tell you why I don't have time.
The game for me that I played that we had I felt like it was done and then it turned out it wasn't done and I stopped was Monster Hunter World.
Oh. Yeah.
It was also my first Monster Hunter game, so I didn't fully get like what Monster Hunter is. After playing Rise as well, I feel like I have a much better understanding of like Monster Hunter, Endgame Monster Hunter, all of that stuff. But yeah, dude, I fought Zora Magdaros, which isn't even like they open up a whole new area after that. And I was like, oh, I beat the game. There's like all these other monsters you can fight for the first time and stuff. And I'm like, no, I did it. I beat it. I beat the big bad. Turns out I did not. I know, Johnny. No. Oh, by the way, my son, Chiho's not here at the studio today. Now it's my son. So if I say my own name, I'm talking to my son who also shares my name.
Do you think that like when you're done with Final Fantasy Remake, if you're gonna like if you had to rate it, if you give it a pretty high score based on what you've played so far? Obviously or not.
I would. Yeah. I would give it a great score. Like, man, It's incredible. It's hard because also, and I think I've said this, I didn't really want to like it so much, So like that's a whole nother aspect of it, of like it won me over. But not only did it win me over, but like I didn't go into it like with a positive feeling toward the game.
Sure. That's almost better though, I feel like sometimes, because then you're not necessarily like expecting it to win you over.
You have low expectations and, expectations are the thief of joy, as they say. Sure. But as much as I wanted to play God of War, I couldn't get into it. So like, surely it says something, versus like,
that's
man,
crazy.
I kept coming back. I kept coming back to Final Fantasy, I liked it so much. This is really random. I bought Final Fantasy VI. I'm like wanting to play other Final Fantasy games because I'm enjoying remakes so much.
That is
like,
crazy.
I'm like, maybe I should go back and play 15.
I feel like every Final
Hearts next.
Yeah, I feel like every Final Fantasy game is so different, though.
They are,
in my opinion.
They're really different, but
this is true.
I think. Part of it may be a level of nostalgia. I used to really be into Final Fantasy, and then, they made a bunch of trash, and I stopped playing it because I was just like, this sucks. Now I'm wondering if, like, maybe I just didn't get it, kind of thinking, and, like, want to get back into it, and, like, maybe I should give it another chance. These games meant so much to me growing up, right? Like, I mean, this would be like not playing Halo.
Right.
Like, for real. People think about like, we all love Halo and play Halo together, but like Final Fantasy, I played so much Final Fantasy and it affected me. This is a good point here. I'll talk about it like this. Think about this for yourself of like a game or a series or some IP, I guess, that affected you like really significantly. So like obviously people would be like, well, Johnny, clearly you love Avatar: The Last Airbender. You've read all these books and stuff like that. But like, I think, and I don't talk about this much, I think I make instrumental music because of Final Fantasy. Because Final Fantasy game music was like the first music I listened to that it was like, wow, people really love this. There's a following to it. It's just instrumental. It's beautiful. And I only just realized that like this year over Christmas and New Year's, because I was talking with a friend of mine and he started playing Final Fantasy VII music. And I was like, oh yeah, this is Final Fantasy VII. He's like, oh, I didn't know you know this. And I'm like, actually, I used to listen to this all the time. And then I was like, oh wow, like, yeah, I didn't realize how much it influenced me. And it's kind of weird to go from that to like, I haven't really played a Final Fantasy or even really given it much thought in like 7 years, But what about you, Caitlin? Is there a property or an IP or something that it sounds weird to say that it like genuinely affected your life, but I guess that's what I mean.
I would honestly have to go with Halo more than anything, but Mass Effect was huge.
Mass Effect.
That was another big one for me when I was a kid.
I really wish that they would have continued support for Andromeda. I really wish there was more Mass Effect games going.
Well, and when that came out, I was so bummed because like I was excited to play Mass Effect. I got in. Granted, it was a little repetitive. That didn't like totally make me excited, but it felt like Mass Effect. And I was so excited to play a Mass Effect game again. I didn't care. I was so excited to have it. And I mean, I didn't finish it again because I rarely finish games, but I played it for hours and I liked being there,
What do you mean by finish? Do you mean like 100%ing or just finishing the story?
Just finishing the story.
Okay.
I very rarely 100% anything.
I usually will finish the story, but yeah, I very rarely will 100%. A game I never finished the story of was Red Dead Redemption 2. I think I'm probably like 30 minutes from finishing the story, and I just can't get myself to do it.
I'm not even like halfway, but that's because Red Dead Online distracted me, and I just every time I log in, I want to play Red Dead Online instead.
And what about you, D? What's a game series that has affected you deeply?
I mean, Halo's the obvious one, right? AnavCast wouldn't exist without Halo.
What a weird thought.
Yeah, Halo is where I met so many incredible friends and everything. It's one of the things that like we bonded over and all that. I mean,
true. Me too. Me and David used to play Halo back in the day.
Most of my friends, I feel like, have come from like at least a tangential relationship to that game series. And also like that was my first shooter, right? Like before that it was all RTSs or like puzzle games and stuff, and like none of it was online. And I mean maybe a couple games of Galactic Battlegrounds online, but for the most part like none of it was online. And so like I just didn't have any aspect of like any understanding of how social games could be. And that was a fundamental change in the way that I viewed games, because like I just thought they were fun before, but like didn't realize like the connection that you could gain from them. But if I had to choose like another game besides Halo, I think I would either choose like Galactic Battlegrounds.
That's so wild, but I mean, I get it.
Yeah. Or also like maybe even the Myst series, probably. Actually.
Oh man,
which were like my first like my first real foray into video games, into puzzles and everything. They were like way harder than I ever expected them to be, and it really taught me like kind of like the width of what a game could be, even without that social aspect. To the point where like, sometimes you had to look up the solutions because they were just so ridiculously like complicated or convoluted, or like required a base understanding of certain elements that like you might not necessarily have. And that was just like a really interesting, intriguing like way of storytelling too, where you're picking up pieces of the story a little bit at a time, and like having choice in there based on what you did, and So that was like pretty special. And I mean, like, also getting to play that with my uncle. He's the one who introduced it to me and everything, and like got me really into actual like games beyond just Donkey Kong Country, which I guess would also be formative, but like in a little bit of a different way. So yeah.
My favorite Myst, like the thing I loved about Myst so much is like when I was a little kid, I watched my dad play it, right? But my dad wrote down everything that he did and all the solutions as he went by, because, you know, back in the day on PS2 games, you know, you get the little booklets in the case and whatever. And so when I later on played it as I grew up as a teenager, whatever, and was like, oh, I'm going to feel nostalgia, whatever. And I couldn't figure out a puzzle. I had all the answers there for me. Like I didn't have to turn towards Google or anything. My dad had just laid out a map for me. And I don't know, for me, that felt real special.
Fantastic.
So I get
that's
that.
Great.
That's
yeah.
cool. Yeah, that's super cool.
Myst actually came with, I think, I could be wrong, but I think that like Myst, the PC version actually came, or maybe even I think it was on Mac too, but like it came with like a little notebook that you could write notes in.
Yeah, totally.
And the
really whole
cool.
back, like it had like all the gameplay instructions in the front, but like the whole half end of that little booklet that used to come with games was just a notebook.
This would be a great time for me to bring up that I have never played Myst.
You should do it.
You could say that I missed it.
you could say that.
Yeah.
But you know what? Yeah. You know why I'm not going to say that is because you could still play it. You could still do it.
Yes. It's like they've remade it so many times, and the newest version actually has like modern day controls and modern day open world, and it's completely remastered. Like, I mean, like remade from the ground up. It looks really good, even by today's standards. The thing about Myst, though, that's really hard to like bring back is that when Myst came out, it was like another level in terms of graphics compared to any other game. And now that's like almost impossible to get just because graphics are so good in so many games now. Right.
It's a weird thing. People don't, you know, you hear a lot about video games, but there's a lot of positive things too in like how it can shape people. I think Legend of Zelda has like this ridiculous reach of like how many people it's really affected and how many people really deeply love the series, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
And I'm going to tie this in. I watched this great YouTube video. I posted it in my channel, and I want everyone who listens to this to watch it. There's this YouTube video about where do the rivers in Hyrule go? And it's a 30-minute video of this guy pointing out that none of the rivers in Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom empty into the ocean. You would think that they would empty into the ocean, but they don't. And it's a 30-minute video of him mapping every river in the game of like, this is where the river starts. These are tributaries that add to it and stuff. And like, it's awesome. And just bringing up like, does this make sense? Can it make sense? Like, does this work? Like, you know, do the game developers, do they actually think through how these rivers work? Or did they It was 30 minutes of pure joy for me. Of just like, yeah, freaking, this is what I want to know. He has another video I have not watched yet of where do the Skyrim rivers go, or like where do they come from?
Oh my lord, that's got to be intense.
So good. And now this is why the internet exists, for content like this. For some random guy on YouTube to point out that, like, did you notice that the rivers in this game don't go anywhere? Or do they? Let's check it out.
I'm pretty sure the example used was different, so I don't think this was relating to that. I think this was relating to something else, but I saw a post on Twitter, the website colloquially known as Twitter.
Oh my gosh! Every time.
I think I heard Maui talk about that in a Disney movie once.
Yeah, but I saw a post that said, you know, the internet has really kind of ruined things, because back in the day, like every person that would normally like do these like Legend of Zelda videos or whatever, like these video game videos of like all these different things that like about like video games and all that, would normally be like categorizing like every kind of like beetle or something, and really be adding to like the science field.
Doing real important things.
And I feel like that probably, maybe, possibly has like an element of truth to it, but also this is more entertaining. You know, I mean, not many people would necessarily care about the Beatles. I would think.
You know, some people do, but again, those are the people who are adding to society.
Well, that, and if we want to talk about something on the internet ruining everything, why don't we talk about the platform X, colloquially, I don't even know how to say that word, known as Twitter. I hate that website. And also, I want to bring this up to everybody. I love the amount of people who are like, listen, I hate it too, but I'm just on it. Get off it. Get off of the platform.
So many other options.
I left the platform 10 years ago, and they're like, I find out news from the platform. You know what? You can find out news from Google.
Guess what? That's actually not a good place to find out news.
You can find out news from. Oh man, but my these other people are on it. Yeah, leave. Everyone who's on it is on it because everyone's on it. Just leave the platform and don't look back. Just
You're not wrong.
Shut down the platform, and everyone's just like, oh man, I hate it here. Then go. Oh my god, I hate that platform so much. Like. And it's it's this weird black hole of people being like, oh, but we can't leave. Yes, you can.
It's one of my problems with people complaining in general, where they seem to like put themselves in a position where they can complain about things without making any actual changes. Right.
Right.
And that's always a frustration of mine. I did see something positive on Twitter, which is very rare nowadays. But there was this person who got into a fight with another person, right? This girl got into a fight with this guy.
That's very positive so far. Keep going.
Where the guy was being kind of like misogynistic or whatever. He has certain views and all that. The girl was replying like
on X.
I think it
on X. Really?
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I'm so shocked if this happened on that platform.
So the girl was going to
like tell a moderator?
Do a whole like takedown thing, like, hey, like really make fun of this guy, right? And so she was because he had already resorted to personal attacks against her out of nowhere when all she did was like post a selfie or something. And so he had already resorted to personal attacks.
Any men who are listening,
Anav dating advice is not that, by the way.
It's a great way to get the ladies, just personally insult them.
But so she was gonna like essentially reply in kind, as people do on Twitter, right? But the first picture that she found on Instagram of this guy was of his legs being like super badly burned. Oh. And so she made this video saying like, I was going to do this, but honestly, like this guy, he's in bad shape. He really needs help. He's got a GoFundMe. Guys, donate to this thing. And she posted a link to the GoFundMe.
He's been burned worse than I ever could burn him. Like, I don't need to burn him. God burned him.
Essentially, she did kind of say that, yeah. But I mean, but using her, platform or whatever in this whole argument to generate attention towards something good, to be able to help someone who is obviously not aligned with her, like in terms of beliefs. But I mean, like seeing someone in need, regardless of their beliefs, and going, you know what, I have the power to like maybe do something here. So why don't I actually use that for good? That was really cool to see. So like they raised like something like, so far, I think like $2,000 for this guy. And that's just really cool. It's really cool to see moments like that. I feel like they're too far and too few, but they should always be recognized and called out.
Now this guy is going onto every influencer's page and leaving mean comments, hoping that they'll check out his GoFundMe.
I don't know who I follow on the internet, but there's this one gal who's like, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I post good news every day. And a lot of the time it's animal related, but I follow a lot of people like that just because it's silly fun and it makes me feel not so sad about the world.
And I want to clarify that is an awesome thing that David posted. I know I started making fun of it immediately, he said. That's an awesome thing. I do agree.
Yeah.
If I saw that, I would probably have included it in my insults,
and then
versus
he
like
replied,
actually trying to
and
help
he's
the
like,
person.
you know what? Like, I mean, like, He replied saying, you know what, I was totally wrong about you. You're actually a very I mean, granted, he's now, financially benefiting from this person. So I mean, like, motives might be a little bit skewed there, but like, I mean, for him to like realize, hey, guess what? I don't necessarily need to like just like react in hatred or whatever, like for no reason when someone posts a picture of themselves or something, and like hopefully he gains like some growth from that,
Are we an 18 plus podcast? Are we tagged as 18 plus? Are we allowed to say anything? I'm just wondering. I'm just wondering before I say something. Are we allowed? Are we allowed? You're not allowed. Okay.
Yeah.
You're not a. I'll just stop there. You're not
You're not a bad lady.
You're not a bad lady. You're not a hotel.
No.
Well, there you go, guys. I guess they shouldn't shut down X. They should leave the platform up. You know what? I've been convinced.
Take it down.
Everyone get back on there. Let's all get back on there, Anyway, it was brought to my attention that our podcast is really long. So, do you guys have any closing comments? And we'll go ahead and wrap up this week. Do a nice little short one.
Work on emotional regulation. It's good for the world.
That's fantastic advice.
There was something else that I wanted to bring up real quick.
Go ahead.
So John Berthal does a podcast called The Real Ones, apparently. And he had on Deborah Ann Wall. And John Berthal plays, among other things, the Punisher, right?
Yes, and she was
and she
Karen Page.
was Karen Page from Daredevil, right? And in this podcast, they started talking about D&D. Dungeons and Dragons, and he immediately kind of like checked out a little bit. Like he was like, oh, well, like that like nerdy thing that like people do or whatever. And she was like really excited about it. And so she
too different to how I'm checking out right now.
So she saw that he was checking out, and she did something really cool.
I know exactly what you're talking about now.
She's like, you know what? Let's play right now. Right here, right now. You're in a forest, you hear sounds in the distance, right? Something big is coming your way. What do you do? And like just engaging with somebody that way and showing them how it works or whatever was really cool, I thought. Because like he's like, oh, well, like, I mean, like, well, like, do I know where it is? Like, and she's like, well, roll
history
simulate a perception
if
check or whatever.
Yeah. Because he
and
runs
so
into an owl there.
Yeah. And like it was a conversation, and that was so cool to see D&D.
Did she have dice?
She did not have dice. No,
she just said imaginary. So she's like, you roll a 13 now. You have a -1 in your history, so really you get a 12. So no, you don't know what you've just encountered. So she's making that up on the fly, but. It's been all over the D&D community, and it was a really cool thing.
Thank God she didn't have dice on her. That's all I'm going to say. If she had dice on her, she would never work again, right? They would be like, we're not going to hire her. That freaking nerd. No.
But, like, no way. I think that like...
I don't know a good D&D player who doesn't carry a set of dice. All the time.
I mean, she probably did have dice. I would not be shocked. As an actual... a GM and everything. She probably did. But like her choosing to approach that in a manner of a conversation as opposed to like, oh, I'll show you sometime or whatever, or like try to explain the game or whatever, I thought was really, really neat. And I think that that's an excellent example of like having something that you love and like trying to communicate it in the other person's language instead of your own. But yeah, that was really, really cool to see.
That is super cool because, like, for me, I talked about this on a really early episode about how I don't like board games. Personally, I'm not a fan of board games. I have fun playing them, but what I don't like is I'm like, if you don't know how to play the board game, I literally, I'm just going to quote this earlier podcast. It's always the same, right? Where people are like, oh, like they just like overdump all of the rules on you, including they're like, oh, unless this is happening, in which if that's happening, then, you can't do that and da-da-da. And it always is like, you know what? Why don't we just start playing?
Yeah. That's the best way to learn a board game.
We'll explain it to you on the fly. And that's kind of what she did, right? She didn't start over dumping on him. She was just like, all right, let's just throw you into a situation.
Like, guess here's what? All the rules. Here's how to create your character. Like, no, let's just jump in. And like,
you're in the woods. You hear a sound. Is it a man or is it a bear? Which one do you choose? Roll. Mm-hmm. You know?
Is it a man or is it a bear? Oh my gosh. I'm a very avid board game player. And so I run into that all the time.
I appreciate you giving me just the perfect title. I appreciate that.
Is it a man or is it yeah. It's John Berthal is also a character in the Bear TV show, by the way.
That's actually true.
Anyway, Caitlin, go ahead. You are a nerd who plays board games.
Well, yes, I'm an avid board game player, but that's the thing you run into all the time. And some people, if they aren't interested in playing, you're never gonna get them to enjoy it. It's like, okay, we're gonna chalk up to this one being a bad board game for you. You might not win. Oh well, but if you know, I don't know. It's you only get out of it what you put into it. You know.
That's such a great point because I feel that way also about gaming, right? Like video games of like. People who are, this isn't fun. We'll use this great example, Apex. This isn't fun. And it's like, well, it takes time to get good at it. And if you put the time in to actually achieve, like, that first kill feels really good. That first win feels even better, you know? And, like, but if you just are like, no, this is dumb, I don't like it, like, you're never going to get that feeling, right? Yeah, with board games, it's interesting. I was going to ask, like, how do you guys feel about gatekeeping? Yeah. I feel like D&D is getting way more mainstream than it's like ever been.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah.
And I don't particularly care for it that it's getting way more mainstream and that people like talk about it and are like, you know, referencing it. Like, on one hand, it is cool for the community, so I like don't want people to come at me, but like I don't necessarily love that it's gotten more mainstream.
That's a weird take. I think that if people,
well, I guess it's a good point to bring up that I don't love D&D. Right. So like the fact that it's getting more mainstream, I'm kind of like, ugh, like,
yeah.
Cool.
I think it's really cool that it's getting more popularity because it's a game that you can't play unless you get a group of people together that want to tell a story together and just be goofy and play imaginary stuff, you know? So, I mean, it's definitely not for everyone, but the fact that it's not considered like devil worship anymore, super cool. Love that.
Right. But it is.
No one trying to drown you to see if you're a witch.
So
witchcraft.
I play D&D really silly, and the fact that on all of my characters, I don't like choosing like a pantheon or a god because to me that's so sacrilege. You know, we don't worship false gods if you're a Christian, whatever. So I always don't do that. And
I like that. Do you guys hear that? Hold on. I want to highlight this on our podcast. I don't want to worship a false god because I'm a Christian or whatever.
Well, I mean, the whatever is like, I'm sure other religions have something similar to that effect, but you know.
Yeah, I just like the whatever thrown in there. Or whatever, you know. You get me. Am I right?
But, you know, that's just like how I choose to play the game, and anybody can do whatever they want. Like it's a game without limits.
Caitlin's character is a Christian in the in the world of D&D.
90% of the time, yeah.
That's awesome. No, and I think that's what I don't love about D&D. And we talked about it earlier about just not having time, right? It's hard enough to like, man, look at how many times farmers missed this podcast recording, right? Yeah. Like of just trying to get people to, I mean, and being someone who plays D&D, you experience this all the time, right? Of like, just trying to sync up those kinds of schedules is super hard. What opportunity. Yeah, the logistics of it. And then like you want to get like 5 people. Yeah. Like that Ideally. Sounds, you know what that sounds like to me? It sounds like literal hell. Yeah. Like trying to deal with that. And so in a sense, the social aspect of it is one of the big turnoffs for me. Of like, oh, this is something that like I can only do if I plan it with all of these people. that doesn't sound like a good time to me.
And you can only play maybe once a month or twice a month. Yeah.
I guess the whole mainstream part of it, like that I don't love it. It's just that of like, oh, like that's cool, I guess, you know.
You just don't love it because you can't do it.
I think that's part of it. I think I love it. I don't like it because I can't do it. But I also think it's the new, not the new, but like in nerd circles, it's like we should get coffee sometime. We should totally do a D&D session together. It's like none of us are actually interested in doing a D&D session together. No one is actually even going to do the first step of trying to make this happen. We just say it. Well, and that's why I don't like it.
The problem is that there might be the interest there, but is it enough to actually like motivate people to actually like put forth the effort, right? Because the effort is always going to be like how much the people care.
No,
like that's going to be
there's not enough, and there's not enough interest to generate
because
the effort.
Like everything like takes effort, and effort does determine how much you care. So I mean, yeah,
it's more it's more than just showing up, you know.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to do more than just show up. That should be a shirt we design.
It needs to be a shirt design for Nav. I think it's solid.
But yeah, so I don't want to yuck anyone's yum, as Daniel would say, about D&D, but also that can go back to being a weird niche thing, you know, versus everyone and their mom being like, we should play D&D together. And it's like, shut up. No, we shouldn't. Like, okay, sure. We can't even play Baldur's Gate 3 together. We can't set up that to work. You want to sit down at an actual table and play a game? Okay.
Look, we have it scheduled, okay? It'll be fine. It'll be great. Yeah.
Speaking of that, we have a new monthly thing where David Farmer and I play video game D&D. You guys should all come and check it out. Baldur's Gate 3 is video game D&D. Yeah, do you not know about this?
For real?
No, I don't. I'm surprised. I'm just genuinely surprised.
This is so awkward. Caitlin didn't know about this announcement, and we're recording invited. It. We haven't done the visual bit yet, but her face of pure disgust, you guys have to imagine it. When she said for real, she looked like she was grossed out. Yeah, we even made our characters.
Yeah, wow. We made our characters. We've all have purchased it on PC. We've all actually logged in together. Like, I mean, like
made our characters, and we're ready to go. We were supposed to. Okay, so another thing that I guess, you know, it will still be going when this podcast comes out is Tuna is doing his big charity event. This time it's called Hooked on Hope.
Oh, yes.
And it's working with Breakthrough, which was formerly JDRF.
Yeah.
Which is a charity that funds research looking for cures for type 1 diabetes. Tuna, who is a member of ANAV, but he's done this a few years in a row now, and he does this really big charity event with a big raid train on Twitch. But there's also like a ton of giveaways, and he always raises a ton of money, and it's a good time. And Farmer and actually Caitlin here, what did you guys hike?
So we went to Colorado. Well, I guess it's Manitou Springs, right next to Colorado Springs, and hiked the Manitou Incline. And it is a straight up staircase up a mountain. It's 2,768 steps, 2,000 feet of elevation gain. And the incline is a 45 to 68% grade the entire way up.
So if you want to imagine what that looks like, imagine hell. And now put a staircase there.
Yeah. And then once you complete this incredibly grueling staircase, they recommend not going back down it unless you're very, very capable. So the alternative is a 4-mile hike down.
I mean, to be honest, I would probably just die up there. I'd just lay down and die at the top. Or just build a house. Just be like, listen, I live here now. Yeah. I'm not leaving. This is where I'm staying. Y'all are gonna just bring me water. But they hiked that, and Farmer went to this hike. He flew from Tennessee to Colorado to do this hike, and this is why we were supposed to start our Baldur's Gate playthrough yesterday, and it didn't happen. So, we were actually supposed to start it 2 weeks ago, but then it turned out it wasn't crossplay. We did talk about that, and then we were supposed to start that week. And I love how Farmer was like, "Yeah, that's totally fine." And then like 2 days before, he was like, "Oh, actually, I'm not going to be available. I'm going to be in Colorado."
He's a busy guy. He's got a lot going on.
Yeah.
And then he's not here today because he just got back, and he's sleepy.
Sleepy. I took my nap when I got home already.
And he's grieving the closure of Halo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's done. I do hope that someone else gets it though.
Me too. I hope somebody else gets the property. I hope that it's not like continued on from what was, but like that somebody like reboots it. Yeah.
And I feel like reboots happen often enough now. Like, it sounds weird to say that they're mainstream enough, but they happen often enough that I think they could do it and people wouldn't be confused. You know, no one's going to watch the new Halo show and be like, wait, why is his butt out? Why isn't his butt out? Where's his butt? Yeah. You know, like, that's not probably going to be a thing. But I kind of am totally in agreement with you guys that I think that Amazon would be the best choice just based on how they've handled other sci-fi properties, but I just feel like they won't do it. It would clash too much with their Fallout show, right? It would have to be someone who wants to compete with the Fallout show that would get something like that.
I think so too. Yeah.
Which is a huge bummer. So it's going to end up going to Disney or something, you know, and it's just going to, I don't know. Probably not Disney. I don't know.
Probably not Disney, but yeah, either that or it just dies. I've not seen more than 2 episodes of the show. I've watched the first episode 4 separate times, and they've never made it past that.
Sounds like you really liked it.
Yeah.
Just the first episode. I don't know. Anyway.
Kill it if you have to.
Hey. Is there anything you guys want to say before we wrap up? No?
Negative, Ghost Rider.
Bye. Get out of here, Craig.